I don't speak the language. Could you teach me?
Spent my whole life looking for love. Somebody told me attention is one hell of a drug. Got me fighting my intentions when we cutting the rug. Love the way you compliment me, fell in love with the love, man. Hey, this shit fucking me up. Every time that I see you, feel like I'm catching a buzz. Back when I was a shorty, I didn't know what it was. I tried to fight all the feelings, but I was catching a buzz. Like, nah, baby, we don't break dance, but I make bands, and I shake a great hand.
LA take my soul. I'm moving back to the 810. I ain't gonna let LA take my soul. I'm moving back to the 810.
What up, though, everybody? It's your host, Felix, a.k.a. Felix the Don, a.k.a. Top 2 and Not 2. Welcome back to the Loft 313. And this is a special episode, man. Merry Christmas to everybody. We appreciate y'all rocking with us and checking us out on Christmas Day. We got a real special episode for y'all today with a Christmas jingle. Going to be getting sang by great artists out of Detroit. And, man, we got my boy Nate here from Headlights Hip Hop. How you doing today, Nate?
I'm good, Felix. Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, man. So this is dope, man. Me and Nate have known each other for a couple months now. We met in the summertime.
Yeah.
And Nate has this really cool app that he's going to tell us all about today. If you're an artist, this is a very important episode for you because Nate is revolutionizing the game and making it very easy for you to get your music out there.
Well, thanks, Felix. I mean, that's a hell of an introduction. I appreciate that.
You.
We are trying to revolutionize the music industry. I mean, I started in hip hop, and I don't know if we're going to get to this at some point, but I started in hip hop like almost 17 years ago, and I saw that there was going to be a problem with social media, the way that it was growing, and how they weren't really making any space for music. I mean, social media was never built for music discovery, right? It's just become the de facto place to discover music. So I set out a long time ago to try to change the game, and that's what Headlights is trying to do, trying to create a new avenue for artists. So
before we get into Headlights too much, let's talk about your past. Tell us like where you're from, where you got your start. Tell us about you. We want to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a little bit old to be making a career adjustment, but that's kind of what I did. So anybody out there who thinks like you can't, well, I'll start at the beginning. I was born here in Detroit. I've always been sort of a creative type, I think. I moved around a lot, like lived in Hawaii, lived in Connecticut. Parents moved around a lot. Ended up back in Detroit for high school and moved to Chicago after college. I was in finance for a long time, but I always, like I said, I always consider myself a creative person. I like to paint. I play the piano, and in finance, there's not really that much like creative like opportunity to like do anything creative, right? Yeah. And so I had that itch, it was like scratching at the back of my neck. And one day I'm walking down the street. I was walking down, I remember anybody listening from Chicago, I was walking down I was at State and Division, and a guy crosses the street, a rapper crosses the street, walks up to me and says, and I was with my buddy, and he's from New York and I'm from Detroit, and he says, excuse me, do you guys like hip hop? And I was like, yeah. I mean, this was back in the day when like Eminem and Jay-Z, like, I mean, they're still big, but like they were kind of like, big names. And of course, being from Detroit, my buddy says, oh, I'm from New York. I love Jay-Z. And I was like, well, I'm from Detroit. I love Eminem, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, all right, well, I'm an independent, I'm like a broke rapper basically. Like, and I'm a freestyler. So let me freestyle for a couple minutes, and if you like what I have to say, maybe throw me a couple bucks. Like, it'll help me. And so I was like, yeah, bet. Like, this is great. So the guy starts freestyling, and it was, first of all, I had never seen this before, but, I mean, we're talking 12 years ago probably at this point. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. The guy was rapping about the girl's hair, rapping about the chick's dress, the car that drove by, the birds that are flying. I mean, it was 100% off the dome. It was the most amazing, the most talented thing. It was incredible. And I was stood there in awe, and like jaw open, like how I literally asked him, why are you not in a penthouse right now? You are the most talented person I've ever met. Now, of course, if I knew then what I know now, maybe the conversation would have gone differently. But like, I was like, Jesus, how are you not in a penthouse right now? He's like, well, I just, he's like, well, I just, need a couple bucks to like get my career off the ground. And I was like, well, how much does that cost? He goes, well, I 3 or 4. I'm thinking he's going to say $3,000 or $4,000 or something. He's like, 300 or 400 to make my album. And I was like, whoa, that's it. Again, had I known then what I know now, because I know that it does not cost $300 or $400 to get your career off the ground.
No, for
if
sure.
it was, there'd be a lot more people with their careers off the ground, right?
100%.
But at the time, I'm like, shit, I'll help you. So I said, call me tomorrow, and he called me at noon the next day, and we talked about it, and we put a plan together, and I went into the studio with him, and that was it. Like, I went into the studio, we made one song, and that was it. I said to myself, I had been in finance and had all this opportunity to make all this money and do all this, cool shit in finance. One time in the studio, the amount of creative energy in there was enough. I walked out of that experience saying, if I can figure out how to make a living in music, I will do this full time.
Yeah.
Because it is so cool being around so many creative people. You guys, most people don't understand. Like, everybody looks at the money like it's the greatest thing ever. But the freedom and the creativity and the energy around all that is intoxicating. It's addicting, and frankly, it is. If you can figure out how to make your life work in music, man, I highly recommend it because it's just cool. The people are cool. What we're doing is cool. We're creating new shit all the time, and you're just not doing that in finance or sales or stuff like that. Yeah, sure, you're making some money. You're making more money, but I don't know. So I'm not going to say it was an easy decision to eventually, if you want to get into like the whole career progression, that's kind of how I got started in music, but I was in finance for a long time, and I continued to kind of grind it out and work with artists during that time. But, but eventually I had to make the decision. Once we got Headlights going, I was always like a side gig, and it got to a point where we're like, okay, we need to make a decision. And that all happened during COVID, but that was a totally different story. Yeah,
and it's important too to make that decision because at some point it's like you can't be half in, half out.
Oh,
it's not gonna work. You know what I mean?
No, totally.
So eventually you do got to make that leap. I think it was similar for me, and like I've always been an artist, and at heart, I sang growing up. Played a couple instruments growing up. I used to take classes for guitar. I played a little piano. I played the trumpet in middle school, but like once I got to college, it was like, my mind was set on getting a degree, trying to become an entrepreneur and do something in business. And then, man, I got that first taste of the music industry, just like you said, like my first time in the studio, and I fell in love. And my first studio experience, I don't know how yours was. My first time ever in a recording studio was at the Fair State recording studio.
Okay.
So state of the art, like best equipment you can think of.
Mine was the opposite.
Blew my fucking mind. I'm like, yo, this. But then as I that first session, all my sessions after that for the next 3 years were in people's apartments.
Yeah, but it was an impressive. But it was an impressive facility, and you're like, oh, this is
this is
sweet.
dope.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is what I can
cutting
work
edge.
towards. You
Cutting
know what
edge.
I mean?
Yeah.
So that changed it for me too. So I definitely feel you.
Yeah.
And
It's always interesting, like when you get to experience that next level of anything you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Where like you do it at some level, and then you see the next step, and it's like immediately. And this could be in any industry, but it always sort of in a creative way, like in a creative industry, it's like you're grinding, and then all of a sudden you see somebody doing it at a different level, and immediately like. The flash bulbs go off or whatever, and you're like immediately level up, right? All you have to do is see it, and you're like, oh crap, like now I know what I can do. Now I see that new level, and that's I don't know that's I love this industry too, because the more you network with people, the more you see people doing it different ways, and all of a sudden your sphere starts to just expand like exponentially. Yeah,
for sure. It's important to see that too, like you said, seeing people doing it at a higher level, because it gives you inspiration, but then you also can pull inspiration from them and maybe like, okay, when I'm maybe I tweak what I'm doing a little bit and find a different way so that I can get to that point. Yeah. Because sometimes we all think what we're doing is the right way, but sometimes you got to make those little tweaks, and it's important to see like what the next person did that's at the next level, so you can take notes from that.
Yeah. I think about this a lot too when I because social media is something that you can get sucked into because you think that you're seeing everything, and the reality is like you're seeing, if you were to see what I'm seeing right now, I'm seeing lights, I'm seeing cameras, I'm seeing a full crew, I'm seeing computers, I'm seeing all kinds of technology behind the scenes here, and all you guys at home are seeing is us sitting on a couch, and I'm coming from a business side, like I'm trying to find out, I am creative, but I am not a creative. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's important to understand, like when we're talking high level, we're talking about the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see in social media. And so it's important to get out of the basement, get out of the studio that you're in currently, and sort of work around and try to network, because just walking into new facilities opens your eyes.
It does. And networking is so important. It's all about who you know.
Dude.
You know can get you in the room. And then your talent and your hard work and your dedication is what's going to keep you in the room.
Yeah, not to stroke your ego for any, but I will say that you are, and we have, at this point we have over 1,600 artists on the platform. Maybe more. I haven't even looked at the numbers in the last month, but we've been growing pretty quickly. I will say that you are one of the best networking artists that I've ever seen, and I've spoken to, I would say 90% of the artists on the platform I've had a one-on-one conversation with, and I give everybody the opportunity to network with me because I want to network with them. And Felix, you are extremely professional in that, and I
appreciate that.
Applaud you, dude.
Thank you. I've always been. I feel like even growing up, it was easy for me to code switch and just be in different situations. Like growing up, because for me growing up, it was I'm at my mom's house. And when I was younger, we lived in the hood. It wasn't bad, but we outside playing basketball, street kids, there's drug dealers and shit like that going on. Then on the weekends, sometimes I go to my grandma's house. My grandma lives in Southfield. My grandma was a police officer, so at that house it was more, a little more bougie. Not that my mom's not bougie. Our house was always bougie, but the environment was
understood.
Not, But go to my grandma's house is a whole different environment. So I had to learn how to be around different people. Then we moved to the suburbs when I was in high school, and now I'm at a school with a lot of different types of people, so you gotta be able to succeed around all different types of people, to be able to just be cordial with all different types of people. That's important. So I've always been like that since a young age, and I appreciate the sentiment for sure.
Yeah, from a macroeconomic standpoint, or even a socioeconomic standpoint, it seems like the world is changing so quickly right now that the way we're going to survive seems to be like creating new connections with people, creating new partnerships with people that we never really thought that were there to begin with.
Exactly.
We've got to sort of seek out new partnerships and not be so. I don't know. It just seems like the old world is dying, and there's a new one that's in front of us, and we need to sort of not be scared about grasping at it and being brave. Like, I meditate a lot, right?
Yeah.
And one of my mantras is be humble, stay focused, and be brave, right? And the bravery part is doing things that scare me, because there's a lot of things in footprint. We need to be growing your digital footprint. You need to be capturing that relationship with that person that you're talking to. So let me just create a website real quick. So we created a website. This is back in the day when Facebook, do you remember those little blue check marks?
Yeah.
You could follow and like on those little 2 blue boxes. I created a website that had 4 videos of all 4 of the artists, and with their face above each video, and with little like and share buttons below. And then so it had a single URL that all 4 artists could go out, and they could all be pushing the same URL to all the people on Michigan Avenue. So now you weren't working just for yourself. You had everybody else work. You're all working together.
Yeah, exactly.
And that website got a bunch of traffic, and that's what really spawned the whole idea of, oh, wow, we don't need to just do this for the 4 artists who I'm talking to, because there's another 200 artists that these guys are connected to, but we could do this across the country. Well, how do we do this across the country? Well, let's turn it into, I know that hip hop is very community focused in the city, right? Detroit's got a different sound than Flint, than Chicago, than New York, than Atlanta and Miami, and everybody's got a different sound. So why don't we create the same type of platform, and we just have all these artists kind of trying to work together to grow their own, brand and push all the eyeballs onto the same page. And so that's sort of how it all came together. But I will say it was like it was probably that seed of like tension in my life and real moment of stress where I was like, something needs to change, and all of a sudden it kind of came to me. Like,
yeah.
And I wouldn't say I came up with the idea. I honestly, truly, in my heart of hearts, feel like that idea was given to me. And still, time will tell if Headlights is going to be something great. But I do hope that we're making a positive impact on the industry, and helping artists find a path, and help them take control of their careers.
Yeah, and I think y'all are doing something great. I mean, like I said, it's a really easy platform to become a part of, and it gets your music in front of a lot of people. Yeah, which is at the end of the day the goal, and it's free.
Yeah, it's free. It's free, and it's free, and the more artists we have on the platform, like the more powerful the platform becomes. Think about it. Remember, we started with 4 artists sharing a single link. And each of those 4 artists grew their fan base. Everybody's fan base oversects a little bit, right? I mean, in the hip hop community is it's not small, but like all these artists, they kind of overlap a little bit. But when you start overlapping all of these disparate networks, like that network becomes really big and really powerful that everybody gets to share in. So, I've always disliked this attitude of like, I got to get mine and I got to hold on to mine. It's like, dude, if you sit next to that person, like, and you guys vibe together, like their network becomes yours. Your network just doubled, right? Like your network just doubled in size. Like there's no problem with that.
Exactly.
Like every person who listens to, like if I were a rapper, right, and you and I were like buddies, it'd be like every person who listens to me probably would fuck with your music too. So why aren't we talking to each other?
Exactly.
Right? Because So anyway, so that's kind of where the whole thing.
Yeah, it's all about inclusivity, man, and I'm all about that for real. Cause like you said, you put it a great way. Like if I talk to you, now my network just doubled, because everybody that fucks with you probably will fuck with me if we're vibing and we have some type of connection. Yeah. So that is important, because like we take it back to networking, man. It's all about who you know. They can get you in rooms that you wouldn't be able to get in yourself.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the other thing that we have kind of going for us. And as the Headlights network grows, we can now get into bigger and bigger rooms, and that benefits the artists who are on our network. So we did a couple months ago. We did a, right now we're running this production deal for the overall winner for season 2 on Headlights, which ends in January. And so I think at this point there's one more round left until the end of season 2, and the winner is going to get a production deal that's worth about $10,000, and that includes a major feature from Louis Ray, a music video with Louis in it, $2,000 cash in your pocket to spend on whatever you want, and then some promo work done by our team. We're trying to work out some distribution deals on the back end as well, and that goes into like how many big rooms we can get into. And so that's just what we're doing for season 2. We've got some other stuff kind of lined up that's even bigger for season 3. And we've got investors on board. We're talking to major brands to come in as sponsors. And so as this thing grows and it starts to gain momentum, like the things that we can unlock for artists, and not just the top artists now, as we get into season 3, you'll see we're going to start unlocking things for the overall winner in that city. Right, so it's like there's overall winners in each city, and then you've got the overall winner for the whole country, and everybody's kind of going to get locked into different deals, and we're going to start playing this out. And so you can imagine if you're creative, you can imagine how this thing could grow and scale, and what it could potentially turn into. Where instead of pay to play, which is what the industry is, kind of now it's like. The cream rises to the top, right? Yeah. And that's what we want. I feel like in hip hop, with streams being down almost 40% this year, overall hip hop streams, rap and hip hop streams are down almost 40% this year. And that's not a failure of the artists in my mind. That's a failure of the system that we're all in. And I feel like we need to spark like a creative renaissance in this country. And in order to do that, we need to change the vehicle with which we find creativity, which we find and assess creativity. Right now, we are assessing creativity through the number of likes and views you get on Instagram. That is not the way that we should be looking at it. That's not the way you look at a painting. That's not the way you look at any sort of creative output. Why are we doing that with music? And so we need a new vehicle. We need to like reinvigorate or spark like a creative renaissance in this country. And I'm hoping that Headlights is in a position to do that. If we aren't, that's fine too. Like if we aren't the company that does it, like I said, the networking, and when we started this conversation, go out and talk to other people. Like I'm perfectly happy being the guy that like, hey, here's an idea, right? Maybe somebody else has a better one that comes along, but we definitely need a new idea on how we discover and how we define, how we assess the creative output in the music industry.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, man. Like I got a couple homies that live out in LA that make music, and that's really what like the labels are. All they're looking for is they don't give a damn how talented you are, how many people are paying attention to you. It's all they care about. And it's crazy. And I won't say that's what they all care about, but most of the major labels, it's all about how many people are paying attention to you. It doesn't matter about talent anymore, and it's crazy. And
we can have a freaking, can I swear on this platform? We can have a fucking 4-hour conversation about how bad the labels are, but at the end of the day, like, people got to eat. Everybody's got a mortgage to pay or rent to pay, right? I mean, everyone, even the president of the United States has got, they got to pay the bills. So they're doing what they need to do for business, and they're working within the confines of the marketplace. And the marketplace right now is TikTok and it's Instagram, and it's primarily driven off of your popularity.
I think to an extent, I think there's an underground out there, and I don't even want to call it underground because there are artists out there that are eating. Because people are learning that you don't, like you're saying, people are learning you could do it a different way.
Yes.
Like, and it does work, and it pays dividends. Like even me, man, I make most of, my living off cannabis because I work in the cannabis industry, but I make money off music too, which is, it's not a lot of money, but it's like, I do it independently. I do it all myself, and I get the residuals of that. And, if I continue to grow it, those residuals are just going to get bigger and be worth more in the long run.
Yeah.
And a lot of artists are starting to realize that. But if we can find a way where both parties can eat and we can find a common ground, I think the labels can come around and get on this wave too. Everybody doesn't got to be so greedy, I feel like is the problem in the music industry.
Yeah, I mean, how much time do you have? We can go into are the labels being greedy, and how, I think the labels are trying to exist. We could they're just trying to keep their payroll, and it's like, I think we could have a long conversation about like whether a label should even exist anymore.
I just want to shout out my guys over at Uplifted Cannabis, man. Shout out my boy Tony. He always get me together. They got these real cool donuts. Man, this is a hand rolled joint, glass tip with a rosin snake right down the middle. Some of my favorite smoke. Shout out to the homies over at Uplifted Cannabis Company.
But they do exist right now, so they are obviously trying to make money. But that's the thing, right? I mean, with Headlights, what we're trying to do is create a new way for artists to monetize their music.
Yeah.
There's this idea that monetization needs to come necessarily from the fans, right? But that's historically speaking that, artists make their money off of fans, but increasingly you're seeing these opportunities where higher end artists are doing sponsorship deals with major brands, right?
Yeah.
And those are extremely, extremely lucrative. And I'm not talking about just these brand deals. I'm talking, how do you say, I don't know. I can't think of the exact word, but you're seeing this thing where brands are trying to associate themselves with not just with big artists, but also trying to associate themselves with the hip hop industry.
Yeah.
And so I see the future where there's an opportunity, and maybe it's not just an opportunity. Maybe it is the actual future where brands are starting to actually we're starting to shift the burden of payment from the fans to the brands, or at least a percentage of the burden of payment for the creative output of the entire music industry from the fan to the brand, and allow the brands to participate in that goodwill or that excitement or whatever. But in order to do that, again, we go back, we got to create a new platform around that. We have to change the way that we're discovering music and defining what creativity is, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I've actually seen that firsthand too. So I agree with you.
You're seeing it here in this podcast, right?
No, for sure. And then my boy Be Free, he's a great artist. He's been sponsored by Puma for 3 years or something like that. And it's, he's definitely doing great things. But even back in the day when they first did the sponsorship, he was still on the up and up. He wasn't a big star in that he is now. You feel me? In my opinion. So it's crazy that these brands are looking to attach themselves to the hip hop industry itself. You don't even have to be this huge superstar to get these brand deals.
There was a, and I'm sorry, and I feel really bad about this because I can't remember the artist's name, but he's on the Headlights platform. He was on it in the very beginning. He did one of our one mics a long time ago. We've done 9, by the way. We've done 9. We call them spotlight sessions. Okay. So you remember a couple months ago when On the Radar came to town?
Yeah, and they were actually just here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just here again.
Yeah. And
I didn't get no invite though. It's crazy.
What's that?
I said I didn't get an invite.
I know. I reached out to them. I reached out to them a couple times to try to get a couple of our artists on there to try to maybe get a Headlights giveaway for the On the Radar stuff. But On the Radar is blowing up because they had Drake on board, and then all of a sudden it was once Drake went on the radar, everybody started going on the radar. But it's going onto On the Radar, excuse me. But there are one mic platforms all over the place. But we've done 9 of these things called spotlights. We've done 3 in Chicago and 6 here in Detroit, where we spend a full day. We invite 40 to 50 artists to come in. They get artists come in. It's we try to keep it as cheap as possible. It's $100. Artists get a one mic on our platform, put out across our ecosystem, featured on our app. But really, it's more of networking. Imagine it's like a very exclusive showcase where all of the fans are the artists and all of the artists are the fans, and it's it's just this really cool opportunity. Anyway, we had this artist, but getting back to the whole sponsorship thing, he was sponsored by Sprite. Asaka the Renegade. Asaka, yeah.
That's my dog.
Right, yeah. He's sponsored by Sprite. So it's all these brands are looking for ways to get involved in the hip hop community. And the goal with Headlights is, again, to shift that burden of payment. And I don't say it's burden of payment is just such a technical term, but shift that burden of payment from the fans onto the brands, and create new ways for brands to associate themselves with the hip hop community and with artists who are making great music. And so what I see, I see Headlights as a new way for artists to monetize their music. We're not taking anything away. We're actually helping to boost streams. We can, you can save your music with one click of a button right from Headlights. You can save, I found Felix through Headlights, and I actually listen to all your music right now. If you go and play, in my car right now, it's there are 6 of your songs on my playlist, up near the top. but it's like a new way to monetize your music. We don't take anything away from you. We're not taking away your YouTube streams. We're not taking away any of your streams from any streaming services. We're actually helping to boost those streams. But at the same time, if you do well on our platform, we pay cash prizes every single week. And this, for this season, we have a production deal that's worth $10,000. Next season, that number is going up. And so now you can start to see that, like, we're paying out cash. It's not that much money. It's $250, $200, $500, whatever. But like when you start getting bigger brands involved, when you start bringing in the number of impressions that we're bringing in, and you start seeing the number of artists go up, and we're already in 8 cities. We're scattered across 8 cities. We're really primarily in Detroit and Chicago, and we're starting to build up in Atlanta. But we, in 4 or 5 months, 5-6 months, you could see us solidly in 8 and 10 cities. We could be global in a year. And then you've got Amazon coming in to sponsor. You've got Nike coming in to sponsor. You've got Chase Bank coming in to sponsor. And now those weekly payouts go from $250 to $500 to $5,000 to $10,000. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm now on a platform where I can get in and I can win my city and I can win $10,000. Like, you're paying your mortgage off of your headlights, off of working on headlights. Yeah. Like, this is you're not reaching into your fans' pockets at all. What you're doing is you're reaching out to your fans, asking them to support you, asking them to help you network, to help you win this thing, and that thing gets you national and global exposure. Oh, and by the way, the brand is going to pay for your, rent and mortgage and groceries for the next few months. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the goal, is to come up with a brand new way to monetize music that also allows us to digest music in an efficient and healthy way, not just clips, 15-second blurbs on social media, putting real fans at the heart of music discovery, and reinvigorating the wheel of, I don't know, the creative wheel.
I love how passionate you get about
it. Thanks, man. I mean, I've been living it. I've been living it. Yeah, so
I feel you.
I better be passionate about it.
No, for sure. You got it, man. It's your dream and it's what you want to do. And like I said, I love how passionate you get about it, because you can just see the love you have for the industry and for the game and for music.
Yeah, I love
creativity.
I love the game. I want us to. I always think that it's so weird to me that we don't so like I said earlier, I grew up as a trader, trader, right? So I traded commodities, traded cash, like a lot of stocks and bonds and things like that. And we always talked about value, right? What is value? There's price and then there's value. And so I look at the way that our society values creativity, and I just think it's totally upside down. And that was like the spark that sort of, or the reason this thing kind of was bubbling all the time, was that it feels to me like we don't value, like everything you see in society, everything, even that stop sign over there, like somebody had to design that. Somebody had to create that. Like, creativity needs to be valued, I think, at a higher price than it is valued now. Whether we can get there or not remains to be seen. But I will tell you that I'm working hard at trying to define a new structure that allows us to do that efficiently, and allows the people with the money who want access to pay the people with the creative output without all the middlemen with their grubby hands on your shekels. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. For sure. I feel you. No, for real, man. I like the idea behind it. I think we could definitely get there. It's just gonna take people to get out here and do it. You're out here doing it. People can talk about it all day long, but what are you actually doing to try to help the issue or try to find a solution? And I think you are on the right path.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
The Loft 313 podcast is sponsored by Uplifted Cannabis Company.
Hey, when am I going to get you back in the studio? I want to listen to some new music.
Oh, man, I got a lot of new music. I'm actually in the studio tonight. We're going to go to the studio tonight, so that's
Dude,
cool.
I think your sound is dope. I think you're super professional. I think your beat choice, your beat selection is super high end, right? And the songs you come out with are really how do you say there's like they're unique, but they're like it's just a new vibe in the industry, or at least that I'm hearing out of Detroit. And
Yeah, I feel like I don't sound like anybody else. And
Yeah.
it's also because most of my songs don't sound the same.
that's what I meant to say. That's what
Yeah.
I was looking for.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
They all
What's
sound
funny-
a little bit different, but it's like, but that's your thing. Is that
Yeah.
all that? But they all works together.
But they all, it's kind of funny. So even though and if you actually listen to my music out there, you know this. Every song you listen to sounds completely different, but they're all in like A minor, or they're in A minor and one other. There's always the one of two keys.
That's super
and I
interesting.
don't do that on purpose. Mike Seeger, shout out Mike Seeger. We were doing a show mix for a show. He played guitar and backed me up. I think it was Backwoods and Bonfires a couple years ago. And we were going through all the song keys, and they're just all basically the same two keys, but all the songs sound different.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
it's like I have my own wavelength, but the beat selection is where it gets.
Listen up, all the producers out there. Listen to that. I mean, if you can find a key that an artist likes to rap on, I mean, is that kind of what you're saying? Is that
Kind of.
You
You gotta-
think that's
you
a
have
good key
to-
for your voice, or
I think that's what it is. It just
Okay.
fits my voice and what I like to do, I guess. Because I just always gear like, I don't know if it's like, because the cadence is not always the same. Sometimes
No.
I'm singing, sometimes I'm
No.
rapping. So it's like, it's definitely different, but it's just the way I attack the beat, I guess. That's just how it
Yeah.
always ends up.
I like it because I like your music. I mean, obviously, I like the. I mean, I fuck with it because you've got it's high end production quality. Let's just start there, right? I mean, I think that's table stakes if you want to make it as a rapper right now, is to make sure that your production quality is high end.
That shit is important, man.
It's so important. But beyond that, I'm going to say this, but it's like, and I don't know if I'm even assessing the situation correctly or if I have the right words for it. So I'm going to caveat this, but like, to me, your music sounds a little bit more poppy than like 90% of the 95% of the rap that I hear coming out of Detroit and like the Midwest
more
right now.
poppy, yeah.
And that is more relatable. For better or for worse, that's just more relatable.
Yeah.
And so, you got great hooks too, and that's the other thing that you're trying to say something when you rap too. That's the other thing, man. I could go on and on. We could go on and on. Like, what are the problems with rap right now? I don't want to get into it, but like, geez, it's like say something, and keep that idea through the entire rap. Try to have a hook that people can relate to and can kind of vibe with.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
And have high production quality. I mean, these are like tenets that have been learned over the last 200 years in music.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you sell music.
That's how you sell music.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time too, though, like what has become popular is like, we were just talking about this earlier, but punching, which is a big thing that happens right now, where they're going in the studio, they're not writing, you're just rapping, freestyling bars and going back until you find something you like and you keep going in. And it's cool because some of these niggas be talking shit. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not a hater at all. Y'all niggas can rap for real.
Yeah.
But are you making a song? Is it a full song and an idea, or are you just on there talking shit, which is cool too?
Are you producing a song, right?
Yeah.
Is this like production quality? Like, for me, it's man, I don't want to keep going back to this because people will laugh, but like anytime I start like a painting, that's why when my grandmother passed away, I told her on her deathbed that I would write her a song, and I play the piano, and so I told her I'd write her a song, and that was like maybe 6 years ago, and I'm just kind of getting around to it, like starting to try to compose something on the piano. I'm not a rapper. I don't even know if I have the words to do it, but I'm trying to compose something. But here's my point: is like when a painting, a piano composition, a rap song, a pop song, like any creative endeavor that you're going after needs to be started with intent. It can't be anything good. I mean, maybe. I mean, I get it that there are very talented people who can go in the booth and they can just bang out something and done.
Yeah.
Like, that is fire.
He's got that shit down.
He's got a team working behind him, and
It makes sense.
It's interesting because as a business owner, as like a platform, how do you it's like a commissioner of a new league, right? You go like, well, I don't really like this fact that he's got a bunch of people working for him, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of what every artist needs when you're starting to get going. Like you need people who are going to ride with you and ride for you?
Ride for you.
Yeah,
for
you need people who are going to ride for you, and it's like Pre's got those people, which to me says like, all right, well, if we're going to do a showcase and we need to sell some tickets, like Pre's probably a good business bet.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the business end of it that people need to be thinking about too. It's like, it's not just how many likes you can get on your post. Like, can you do those likes translate into ticket sales? Do they translate into people coming in through the door to see your music? Not just stream it, but like, can you convert those people to merchandise sales and to ticket sales?
Exactly, and that's very important, artists, man. Like, it's cool to have the Instagram shit, and it can help that, but there's like, if you can touch people and get people and really get out here and get your music out to real people, and you can get people to buy into what you're doing, that shit is important. Because you can have fucking 5,000 followers, but you can get 100, 200 people to a show. Yeah, somebody's gonna fuck with you. Yeah, because they're gonna be like, "What can I do to help you grow that?"
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that shit is super important.
And so what's the best way to get those people to start fucking with you? And for me, it's always been like a one-on-one conversation, or a consistent flow of like you just said, like I've heard Pre's name a couple times right now. Yes. So you're like, you would never know who Pre was if it wasn't for Headlights. Like I wouldn't know who you were if it wasn't for Headlights. And those are, but for two very different reasons, right? Like you and I know you because we're networking now, and now I've listened to a bunch of your music, and now I fuck with your music. Like I said, it's on my playlist, like near the top. So I like listen. I'm listening to your music like top of mind right now, you know. Yeah. And with Pre, it's like we always ask artists on Headlights to, look, you can come one time, but you're not getting the power of Headlights if you just come one time. We are asking artists to come back to back to back, typically, so that our team has a chance to not only listen to your music, but then to start to spin a narrative around who you are as an artist. We learn you, and we have a bunch of live stuff that we do, and we do a bunch of recorded material, and we shout you guys out, and we talk about the artists, and we're trying to create something that feels more like the NFL and a lot less like Spotify, because Spotify is so impersonal. We want artists to feel like gladiators, to look like gladiators, and that helps fans sort of stick to you, vibe with you, start to really buy into who you are and what you're doing. Yeah. Like we need to come up with a new format and a new way to introduce creativity to the world. And look, like Instagram ain't it.
It ain't it. I feel you. Well, man, so it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me.
This has been dope. Is there anybody you want to shout out, anything you want to get off your chest before we get out of here, before we wrap up?
Anything I want to get off my chest? I got everything off my chest right now. Shout out to my fiance, and shout out to everybody at Headlights, G and Javinci and Lord and all the guys and all the girls, Drew and Sophie, and we've got a whole team, and Sergio and Tony. Oh my God! I mean, we have a huge group of people working on this project. We've got investors. We've got you guys don't even see that the day-to-day stuff is it's extensive. It's managing an entire software technology company where we're redeveloping and developing new projects and new features all the time based on the feedback we get from the artists. And then on the other side, we've got this whole creative suite at the Russell where we're creating new materials. So you've got Tyler and Mikey as well on the branding side. I mean, there's all kinds of people who are involved in this project. So I just want to shout them out because I would never be here if it wasn't for the team that we have and the investors we have that are behind us to help this thing grow. Everybody kind of has a like mind and sees the problem the same way, and we're all really working hard trying to fix it.
Man, I fuck with y'all. I fuck with Headlights Hip Hop. We definitely gonna be doing a lot more work together.
Thanks, Felix.
Thank you. Coming to work with me, man.
Too.
My dog. And man, that is the Loft 313. I'm your host, Felix, aka Felix the Don, aka Top 2, Not 2, and we out. What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to the Loft Studios. Merry Christmas. Today we got my boy, Apropos.
1, 2,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Detroit, Merry Christmas from the Loft. It's AP. The malls are packed and the downtown shops are flooded. All 10 lords are leaping in my heart and 12 drummers drumming. Looking so magnificent. You in these lights aglow. Oh, baby, both our noses running. It's so awfully cold in the snow. Well, let me ask you, babe, can we make it to Christmas? Hope we make it to Christmas. Yeah, I hope we make it to Christmas. Make it to Christmas. Yeah, all done with leftovers. Here we are pushing through in December. Hey, look at Cupid and the reindeer flying high together. It's more than just a season. It's a time for us to give with no fuss. Oh, baby, keep that fire burning. We'll have answers when it's all said and done. Well, let me ask you, babe, can we make it to Christmas? Hope we make it to Christmas. Yeah, yeah. I hope we make it to Christmas. Make it to Christmas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Jing jingle baby. Jing jingle baby. Hey. Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Hey, yeah. Come on. Oh, baby. Oh, can we make it to Christmas? Oh, I hope. Yeah, yeah. Merry Christmas, Detroit, from the Loft. Apropos.